Hey there, my friend. This is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi, founder here at the Fit Father Project and the Fit Mother Project. Today's video is very important. I want to have a conversation with you on how to stop being addicted to food. Now, whether you have struggled with food addiction or maybe someone in your life, I need you to know this is an incredibly common situation and addiction that affects literally millions of people around the world. And we see it with our teams. Here at the Fit Father and Fit Mother Projects, we've helped over 26,000 men and women in our programs in over 100 countries lose weight and get healthy. And so many of those people, before they join us, they struggle with food addiction. Because let's face it, humans, we have this mind that is very active at times, and it can lead us down addictive behaviors, whether it is food addiction, whether it is drug or alcohol addiction, whether it's addiction to sex, to gambling, to money, whatever it is. So many people have some type of addiction. And food addiction is particularly important because it's one, in a weird way, that's a little bit like taboo. Like, it's almost easier for people to talk about the fact that they're addicted to drugs or addicted to alcohol. But there seems to be a lot of shame around this conversation when people don't want to admit that they're addicted to food. And I want to help clear that up right now because there's probably nothing more fundamental than food addiction. We have these bodies. We need to eat. And eating ends up creating a lot of different circuitry and neural triggers in our brain, and that can really reinforce our patterns and behaviors, can lead us down a very unhealthy path. And so many people that struggle with their weight, this may be you, and maybe your family members, struggle with some level of food addiction. So here's my promise in this video. This is gonna be a longer video, but it's gonna be very valuable. It's gonna be a conversation on what we've learned at the Fit Father Project and Fit Mother Projects on how to help you break that addiction. And I also wanna give you some hope. If you or someone you know and love is struggling with this, it's possible to lose the weight, break the cycle of yo-yo dieting, break the compulsive behavior of binging and then feeling guilty and shameful, and actually keep the weight off and live a healthier life. But this stuff right here is not just to eat this food, exercise this way. It is psychology, and it's gonna require some investigation and self-inquiry on your part, and I'm gonna help guide you through this in this conversation to help figure out some of the root causes of this addiction. Now, let's start talking first about the anatomy of addiction itself. Whether it's food, drugs, sex, money, whatever we throw in here as addiction, addiction actually has an anatomy, and it's basically a habit loop of something a behavior we don't want to continue. And all addiction habit loops have three main phases. The first one is some kind of cue or trigger, something that sets us off. It's either stress from work, it is the feeling of loneliness, it's boredom, it's maybe a triggering situation that happened in our lives. Whatever it is, there first happens some activating triggering event that then leads to the second part, which is the routine itself, which is the grabbing of the chips or the ice cream, the going to the fast food and ordering the 64 McNugget. It's the actual behavior of binging on the food. That is the routine. It is preceded by a trigger. The routine starts, and then to be reinforced, otherwise we wouldn't repeat this cycle, we get a momentary reward. When it comes to food addiction, we get this little high. We get this comfort feeling of eating these foods. And guess what? Food interacts dynamically with our brain's neural circuitry. Sugar is very addictive. It lights up a lot of the same areas that these drugs light up in our brain. It releases neurotransmitters that make us feel good and comforted, and it reinforces addictive behavior. But if you struggle with food addiction, then you absolutely know this next thing to be true. The momentary reward does not last. It is quickly replaced by a feeling of guilt and shame because we just ate that 1,000-calorie bag of chips again. And we have to commit to ourselves, oh, tomorrow's gonna be different, it's gonna be better. And I feel the shame of, I can't believe I did that again. Oh, I blew my diet. I can't believe I'm so stupid. I can't believe I continue to do these things. Why do I feel so out of control? If you experience those thoughts, and maybe it's not food addiction for you, it's another kind of addiction, I need you to know this is the same stuff that all humans go through. Although we might look different on the outside, have different upbringings, we have the same mental machinery. We have the same biological machinery, and this is the struggle of addiction itself. In the rest of this video, we're going to break down and help do some self-inquiry for you on this whole process. And if you're not addicted to food, if you have another kind of addiction, just substitute that in whenever I say food addiction. And then at the end, we're going to give you some strategies specifically for food addiction on how we can kind of booby trap our environment, eat healthier, and actually stay on track over the long term. So the first self-reflection question I have for you is, what kind of situations and thoughts in your lives are those triggers? What are your normal triggers? Is it loneliness? Is it stress? Is it a particular relationship? Is it money? What are the triggers in your life that are leading to your addictive behaviors? Because when we start to add more awareness, conscious awareness to the trigger starts to lose power. Because what often happens with any kind of these addictive behaviors is when that thought pops up, that stressor or that thought that, oh my gosh, I hate my boss, or I can't believe XYZ happens, and we identify with that thought unconsciously, that thought guides us directly into our normal coping behavior, which is the second part of that addiction habit loop. Yet, if we can be aware ahead of time of what those triggers are, and we notice that trigger pop up into our awareness, it immediately has less power over us. We're not identified with the thought, we're observing the thought. And from there, we have a little split decision where we have a choice, where we don't have to unconsciously glide into the pattern and then find ourselves half a bag deep into some chips. So, awareness. What are your triggers? What are the normal things that lead you into the routine? Now, the second step, obviously, of this addiction habit loop is the routine itself. We're going to talk about some different kind of routines that we can slide in, because look, there are going to be times if your trigger stress or loneliness, you're going to feel stress into the future, and you're going to feel lonely sometimes. So we will swap out maybe a healthier behavior. Maybe instead of the eating, it ends up being like going for a walk, calling a friend, doing something like that. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but I actually want to get a little bit deeper into another layer of thoughts, and these are particularly when it comes to food addiction, some reinforcing thoughts that happen next. One of the biggest things that happens when it comes to food addiction is this all or nothing mentality. A lot of people who are addicted to food, not surprisingly, have a lot of weight to lose, because when you binge on that many calories over time, your body accumulates weight and fat cells, right? We know that. And a big issue here is that a lot of people who are struggling with food addiction have this all or nothing mentality, very black and white. They're chasing this perfect day of eating. And if I don't eat perfectly, and oh man, you know what, lunch, I blew it. I had a cup of fries, so the whole day is blown. I'm gonna start make this a cheat day. It's gonna be a cheat day, I'll start tomorrow. That is an illusion that the mind is playing on you. It is an illusion that you're gonna have a perfect diet and that everything's gonna go perfectly. And if you allow yourself to have such rigid conditions for success, the second you slip up, your mind tricks you and says the whole day is blown. Then instead of having 300 extra calories from those fries, you eat 3,000 by including the chips, all the things. As you can tell, I say chips a lot. That's actually one of my foods that I struggled for a long time with having addiction to. But point being is this all or nothing black and white mentality in any area of your life makes you very rigid, makes you very inflexible, and very easy to break. When it comes to weight loss, it is okay to have a piece of pizza once in a while. Have a burger once in a while. There's a big difference between having one of those things and making it a whole day. So if you feel like you are prey to that all or nothing behavior, the next time that thought comes up in your awareness, I blew it. My diet's not perfect. Catch that, observe it, and understand, even from a pure mathematical perspective, you had an extra 500 calories that you weren't planning for. That's okay. Eat lighter the next meal, scale back a little bit the next day, you can equal it all out. But if you dig yourself a hole of 5,000 calories, it's gonna be a lot tougher. So all or nothing mentalities are huge. You didn't blow it. You allowed awareness to come in and you can course correct. Another thing that happens with food addiction is a lot of shame around our self-talk with labeling. I'm ugly, I'm beautiful, this person's that, this person's this. When we start to create labels for both ourselves and our environment and the people around us, we create disconnection. Disconnection that is created by creating a label between us as subject, object. We either label ourselves or we label other people, and that disconnection creates a feeling of friction. It creates a feeling of loneliness. It creates a feeling of frustration, and we act out then in these behaviors that we cope with food. So are you labeling things and people in your life? What is your self-talk like with yourself? You know, so when we start to, again, not identify with these thoughts are patterns that we've established over the course of our lives, and they're not us. We can observe these thoughts. Make that very clear and understand that in your experience. You are not your thoughts. A thought comes up, I'm ugly, I should just eat whatever, you know, I'm never gonna be as skinny or as thin or as lean or have the abs. And that thought comes up, you sit there and you observe it. When you don't attach to that thing and you don't go down the thought rabbit hole, you've created power in this situation. You've created autonomy. So watch your self-talk with that, obviously. And it's easier said than done. It's a daily practice. It's not going to go over. But I do promise you this. The more you sit in that seat of observing the thoughts over time, those thought patterns, they lose power. It's almost like your thoughts are running through the river. It's like your thoughts are these little trickles through the river of your mind, the rocks of your mind. And the more a thought runs and you reinforce that pattern, the river cuts deeper and it gets stronger. But when you observe that thought and you allow it to come and pass over time, that thought river can dry up and it won't start presenting itself into your awareness as much. This is truly essential. And I think if you actually look inside of yourself right now, of any of your compulsive thoughts and behaviors, you'll know this is true within yourself. This is how our minds work. This is how consciousness works. And this is how you get at the root of all addictive behavior. Now, we're going to talk about some practical stuff with like booby trapping your home, replacing routines in just a little bit. But this stuff foundationally on looking at your thoughts is absolutely essential. And another thing I think is the last thing I want to say on thoughts is that the idea of resisting that thought is also a huge mistake. It's okay that these things arise in your awareness right now. There are patterns that you've probably reinforced for many years through different behaviors. Don't beat yourself up and create resistance around that. Resisting the thought that you're XYZ or that you shouldn't feel this way only adds energy to it. Observe, let these things pass. Now, when it comes to changing the routine and behaviors, especially when it comes to food, we need to create an environment for success. You've probably heard the fact that we, as in the external world, our success is determined by our environment. And it's very true. When humans are placed in a healthy environment that is suited to them succeeding, they succeed. When humans are placed in difficult environments with lots of different temptations and conditions for failure, a lot of times they fail. And if they don't fail, they have to use a lot of willpower and grit to grind it through. So my first thing is, what kind of triggers are in your house for making it more likely you're going to slip up with food addiction? Are those chips or the ice cream or the burgers or the Uber Eats on your phone, in your pantry, the things you normally do? Like, are those things in your house? If they are, get them out. It's like, imagine a heroin addict keeping a loaded heroin syringe around the house all the time and telling him or herself that they're not going to inject, right? I mean, food is very unique in that it's something that we do need, so it seems kind of innocuous that you're going down the grocery store. Those chips just end up in the cart, and then they end up in your pantry. And guess what happens next time you have your trigger? You have an environment that you set yourself up to fail. So when are the times that you typically binge? When are the times where you have these cravings? Is it in the middle of the day or afternoon when you're at work? Is it late at night? So once you know those things for you, we can start to booby trap your environment. If you have a sweet tooth, which is a huge thing for a lot of people with food addiction because sugar is so addictive, what kind of healthier substitutes can we bring into your life that are still going to give you some fix, I guess if you will, but aren't like terrible? So for example, maybe ice cream is your thing. We know a pint of Ben & Jerry's, not the best thing to be eating. Well, here is an image of these so delicious coconut ice cream bars. They're literally like 100 calories and they have a lot of healthy fats from coconut. I think they're less than like 1 or 2 grams of sugar. So imagine having a plan for when you feel these things, and not saying you need to be Spartan lifestyle all the time. You can never have an ice cream, but you have a plan in place. Maybe it's some frozen berries. Maybe it is some of these lower sugar ice cream bars. Maybe it is a square of dark chocolate. I'm not telling you what it should be, but I want you to start thinking about what's it going to be for you, where if you have something arise, when does that craving arise? What can you use to help fix that thing? Another thing I like to do, and that's incredibly important, is to actually have a proactive meal timing schedule so you know when you're eating throughout the day. What is food addiction at its core? Essentially reactive behavior. We have a thought pattern, again, that cue or that trigger. It fires us into this routine that gives us this momentary, temporary reward. Okay, so if that's the case, what if we made your nutrition completely proactive and you knew when you're eating every day? So maybe you're having, we have a bunch of different meal timing schedule setups inside our Fit Mother and Fit Father programs. I'll give you a couple examples. One might be our standard 4x4 meal timing setup, where you have breakfast sometime around 7, 8, lunch sometime around noon, afternoon mini meal snack sometime around 3, so that you don't go into dinner starving, and then you have dinner sometime around 6 or 7. So it's like 8, noon, 3, 7, something like that. Or maybe you intermittent fast and you just drink water or tea or some black coffee up until the first little bit of the day, and you have that first meal around 11. Afternoon mini meal snack at 3, dinner at 6. Another great meal timing setup. I'm not telling you which one you should use. There's a bunch of different ones, and we can help you with that in some other videos on the channel. And of course, if you join our programs, the point is, if you're struggling with food addiction and you don't have a proactive nutrition plan with the timing, you're setting yourself up to fail. Another really important thing is, and the research is very clear on this, those that snack eat more calories than those who have set meals. So I recommend you actually have discrete meals, like the meal timing schedule setups I just said, and you're not just grazing and snacking all the time, because you're snacking all the time, it's easier to start eating, and then your blood sugar is always all over the place, and your body's constantly in digestive stress, and you're always getting this hit of this sugar, and you snack, and then your portions aren't proper, and you eat more food. So have a meal, a bigger meal, and then wait around 4 hours or so in between the next meal. Eat, let your body digest. Eat, let your body digest. This is what the body likes. It doesn't like to be bombarded with food constantly. Our bodies want to maintain stable blood sugar, and we're constantly throwing stuff at it. It's really hard for our bodies to do that. So highly nutritious foods. And what do you eat when you do eat? Well, we have this simple concept that we base all of our meal plans around. It's called a perfect plate. This is what a perfect plate looks like. Half of the plate is some kind of vegetable you love. Why? Vegetables, ones that you love. I'm not saying you need to eat like collard greens if you don't love those. If you love them, eat them. The veggies you love are going to stabilize your blood sugar. They're going to keep you full longer. They're going to help heal your digestive tract. They actually help the good gut bacteria in your digestive tract that actually helps decrease cravings. So half of it is fiber, a quarter of it is some kind of protein you love, whether it's an animal protein, grass-fed beef, wild-caught salmon, turkey, chicken, or whether you are going plant-based and we substitute any plant-based proteins you love there. It doesn't matter. This is a formula of what your meal should look like, and a quarter of it is some kind of healthy carb or healthy fat. And if your meals look generally like these perfect plates, they're going to be around 500 calories. You have three of those with a snack, you're going to be at our 2,000 to 2,500 calorie target, which for most people is a great place to start losing weight without starving yourself. So perfect plates, bigger meals, nutrient-dense foods, not snacking all the time is very important. A lot of people do struggle, again, with food addiction late at night. After you have that last meal, after you have dinner around 6 or 7, brush your teeth. Brush your teeth. Get it done. Get it out of the way, because now we're going to pit the benefit of the fact that you're going to have resistance to wanting to eat again after you brush your teeth, and we'll use that to your advantage. So you have your final meal, and then you brush your teeth, and now it might be a couple hours before you go to bed, but that's your way of saying, I'm done eating. This is a cue in your mouth. Your teeth are clean. So all these little things do add up and help. Now, we need to address the root cause of some of this. Obviously, when it comes to all addictive behaviors, a lot of this stuff comes down to us not feeling like we're good enough, us not feeling loved and connected. So doing some self-inquiry into those things and getting connected is one of the best things we can do. And one of the simplest ways we can feel more connection in our lives is to move our bodies, to get outside in nature, into the sun, and move our bodies. So this is why I think for a lot of people, walking and even just spending more time outside is one of the best keys to helping fix some of this disconnected stuff. Whether or not we have good relationships in our lives, when we get outside and we can feel connected to nature and we're walking, we're breathing fresh air, we're hearing the birds chirp, this stuff really does fascinating and powerful stuff to the human body. There's research on this. They call them green bathing or forest walking. You do this stuff, and what the researchers do, they measure your stress chemicals after you get out of your cortisol levels, after you get home from a walk, and they're lower. We feel connection when we're really out of the computer screens, out of the laptops, in nature, we feel connected. So walking, getting outside is going to be a good stress release, especially if you feel like that's really a normal thing. You get a trigger and you normally turn to food. Let's find a healthier outlet. Could be exercise, could be walking and stuff like that. Obviously, there's lots of different things you could sub in there, but understanding this stuff is hopefully a good, helpful thing. Now, when it comes to practice, what can you do on a daily basis? The first thing I recommend for you is you start mindful eating. What does it mean to mindfully eat? Well, normally when most people eat, they inhale their food. You're just constantly, you eat and you're just shoveling your food down unconsciously. Start to slow down your eating. Experience what it's like to chew your food. Chew more times than you normally do. Feel the sensation of the taste. Feel the swallowing. Slow down your eating. Add as much awareness as possible to the process of eating. This is going to help make the actual act of eating from an unconscious behavior to a conscious behavior. And I cannot stress how much this will help you over the long term. This sounds like silly stuff, but this is the foundation of it. We're adding more mindfulness to a behavior that has gotten out of control. Eat all of your meals more mindfully. Eat them more slowly. Experience eating. And there are health benefits to this. When you eat more slowly, you get full faster. You don't eat as many calories. Your digestive process is better. All of this benefits your health. So you get to practice this every single day with your eating, with your normal nutrition meals. Even if, we're not even talking now just about binge eating or stuff like that. We're talking regular eating. Eat mindfully. Also, daily exercise decreases food cravings. This is a very well-known fact. And good sleep decreases food cravings. This is a very well-known fact. And keeping your brain chemistry level by not being addicted to social media and this kind of show and that kind of show is a well-known fact. This whole thing of being addicted to food is a greater conversation of falling prey to compulsive behavior. And it comes down to us increasing our awareness and doing some of the things we talked about in this video. Obviously, as you can tell, we could go on probably for another 20, 30 minutes. I respect your time, and if you're still here watching this, I truly do hope you found a lot of value in this. And this is the beginning of this conversation. If you struggle, comment below. I am absolutely certain there are other people watching this video who are feeling the same things you are, and it's good sometimes to just let it out, to say, I feel heard, and admitting these things is one of the first steps to moving forward. And if you do want help with your nutrition and your exercise, in the comments below, in the description below, we've linked some of our free meal plans and free workouts for mothers and fathers. They're absolutely amazing. If you're not a mom and dad watching this, you can still download these. They will work for you. They'll be helpful. I'll be on video camera actually showing you how you can set up your nutrition, how you can exercise simply at home in under 30 minutes using a pair of dumbbells or kettlebells and see fantastic results. There's no need to be ashamed of this stuff. This is the most human experience possible, and you can transcend this. It's going to take work. It's going to take earnest stuff in your heart. It's going to take self-inquiry, but it's absolutely possible. So God bless you, my friend. I hope you found this valuable. If you did, hit the thumbs up, give us a like button. And it really helps the channel grow. And I'd also like you to comment below. We'd love to continue this conversation with you and hope our team can help you. God bless. We'll talk to you soon.
FitFatherProject.com